Hello there, my name's Card, and here on my YouTube page I like to make little videos talking about topics I'm interested in. And today, I'm looking to invite discussion and disagreement as I explain why I decidedly do not believe in the current conventional scientific explanation of the origins of the known universe, which we tend to call the Big Bang Theory. Before I get too into that, I just want to clarify two main things first. One, when I say I don't believe in the Big Bang Theory, that means I don't personally put any stock whatsoever in the notion of the universe, or the physical universe as we basically currently know it, having begun as a singular super-dense point that rapidly expanded into everything very, very long ago. Some very pedantic people out there might say that no one intrinsically believes in the Big Bang Theory per se, they just recognize it as being the most, what the relevant scientific fields most regard as the most plausible explanation at the current time. For our purposes here, this is what we mean by believe in the Big Bang Theory. And two, when I say I decidedly don't believe in the Big Bang Theory, I'm not here to try and suggest any alternative explanation of the physical universe's creation, or to suggest that any alternative theory is any more plausible or likely or true. This video is called Early Universe Agnosticism, not alternative science or hardline creationism, after all. I'm also aware that the general Big Bang Theory concept doesn't necessarily preclude that there was something, in an abstract sense, which existed immediately and/or any time prior to the rapid expansion period. All that being said, my disbelief in the Big Bang Theory essentially boils down to three things, which I'll try to explain my reasoning behind in full in a moment, but in short, those three things are: 1. My personal inability to test or verify any of the high-level scientific modelling or what have you, which underpins the Big Bang Theory as a scientific theory. 2. The inherently abstract and counterintuitive nature of what the Big Bang Theory purports to have happened. And 3, perhaps most importantly, the fact that whether or not I believe in the Big Bang Theory has absolutely zero practical or social consequences. So, with that laid out, I'd like to get into my reasoning a bit more, each of those points at a time. Firstly then, if you're a scientist and all this weird early universe space stuff is your field, you may very well have seen hard evidence that's as good as anything, any sort of scientific proof ever is. There may very well be laboratories somewhere that have zapped some atoms with their laser guns or whatever in a way that somehow provides a view of what things were like a trillion billion years ago. But that all means nothing to me. I have zero capacity to ever do that sort of thing, and even if I was shown all the research in the world on the subject in person, that's not my field, and it wouldn't mean a thing to me if you showed me a bunch of math on a computer. That's just the nature of the beast, and if we're being honest, surely same goes for more than 99% of people. If you believe in the Big Bang Theory, and you're not someone who's personally either authored the science on it, or can earnestly say you have the training, qualifications, and know-how to be able to evaluate the science on the topic, then sorry, but your belief in it has to be an act of faith. That's fine. You are allowed to believe in something based just off of what you've been told by other people who we trust to know more about these things if you want to. But personally, I do try to minimize the amount of things I hold to be true based purely off of faith. I'm not a hardline empiricist either, far from it. But I think you need to recognize that some things can only be considered true by anyone outside of the relevant field of study of those things as just that, an act of faith. And alongside the other two major reasons I have for being Big Bang Theory agnostic, I choose not to take this particular leap of faith. The second of these reasons is that I just don't think the Big Bang Theory makes a great deal of intuitive sense either. I know it's really reductive to characterize the Big Bang as the nothing suddenly exploded into everything for reasons unknown, but even hearing the explanations laid out properly by people who deal professionally in this stuff, to me, it doesn't seem to sound all that easy to swallow, unless, again, you were prepared to take all the fiddly high-level physics stuff on faith. Again, I'm not here to necessarily evangelize religion or any specific religion, but frankly, if I were to make any assumptions about the nature of the universe's origins, it does make more intuitive sense to me that it would have been started by some form of incomprehensibly powerful and intelligent sentient creator. In my mind, the fact that there are all manner of tiny animals and insects in this world to whom we would seem incomprehensibly larger and stronger and more intelligent and capable of altering the world, and then there are even smaller creatures and bacteria and practically non-intelligent cellular organisms beneath them again, means that I see absolutely no reason that our entire known universe couldn't be merely a speck of dust to some beings or being that is much more unfathomably larger and more powerful than us. To say that such a being definitely exists would be, of course, wrong and purely speculative, but I have absolutely no reason to deny the possibility that such a thing may exist. And again, given that we know clearly that living beings exist at every level of sapience and sentience here on Earth, I believe it's completely possible that such a massive disparity can exist between living beings. It would seem more sensible to me that the origins of what we might call our universe could have begun through the actions of some far greater power, just as I might start an ant farm or seed a bed of flowers, or inadvertently allow pond scum to start growing on a bird bath. Then to suggest that the origins of the totality of the universe was begun by some atomic particles suddenly exploding into all manner just on their own without any intelligent inducement just seems less plausible. But lastly, the single biggest thing that completely holds me back from believing in the Big Bang Theory is that to do so actually means nothing in everyday life. Usually, having a firm belief in something, or even having a marked lack of belief in it, more or less has some consequence on your life. It informs your actions, and that alone is often a good enough reason to have a firm belief in something or another, even if you can't prove it to be true or it doesn't necessarily seem intuitive. For instance, again, faith is the basis of all forms of worship, of course, and any heartfelt religious convictions you have will almost certainly mean some sort of meaningful shaping of your lifestyle and your behaviours, and probably your social circle to a pretty big extent. Or, a more secular example a lot of people will recognise: vaccines. Most people are not immunologists. Most people, myself included, actually have no way of for sure knowing for themselves that vaccines work or how they work without just taking someone else's explanation of the science of it on faith. And the concept of inoculations also isn't necessarily something most people would just intuit the mechanics of if they hadn't been born into a world where they're already a thing that exists and that we can learn about. But accepting the explanation of how vaccines work, it does actually have a meaningful consequence. You get vaccinated and avoid unnecessary illness. On the flip side, even if you actively choose not to believe in the efficacy of vaccines, because you think they're evil or whatever, so you avoid taking them, you must still think that's an outcome meaningful enough that it warrants you having a strong opinion about them. And I don't think anyone's belief in the accuracy or lack thereof of the Big Bang Theory is ever likely to have any consequential outcomes. So in my books, it's not worth worrying about or even taking an explicit leap of faith on either way. There's some concepts out there that most people can't know concretely, and wouldn't necessarily intuit, and don't even really have that much of a consequence attached to them. I was originally going to close out the script for this video about here, but as I was writing it, one small thing occurs to me that I'd like to add in. If you take a firm line that we ought to believe in the creation of the early universe as described by the Big Bang Theory, I think that you're tragically and unnecessarily giving up any chance that the creation of the universe was a thing of any appreciable beauty. There can be no artistry in a random elemental process. Without conscious thought or intent, things can still be pretty and interesting, but they can't be art. there can be no instructive creation myth or cultural foundation to be associated with the earliest days of reality if you chalk it all up to mere physics. And I, for one, would rather not close off that door unless I really have to. So in the meanwhile, I'm not obliged to believe anything I don't think it's necessary to believe. And doubly so, given that, as I see it, believing in the Big Bang Theory is still an act of faith, just one with any explicit divinity stripped away from it. Still, if you yourself are an ardent believer in the Big Bang Theory, I warmly welcome you to voice your beliefs in the comments below or in a video of your own responding to mine. Once again, my name's Card. If you might want to hear more from me, feel free to subscribe to this YouTube page or just take a look at my other videos. Either way, goodbye for now, and have a lovely day.